You have a buy rating on Apple, a $250 price target. Does any of that change if they indeed have to bring production here to the United States?
It does not. This is really just a matter of time frames. Yes, if we needed to make an iPhone right now in the US, it would be very expensive. But can we do this in 5 years? If Apple was to commit to bringing production of iPhones to the US in 5 years and invested its considerable resources into doing that, it wouldn't be that much more expensive. And that's what the president is looking for. And I'm surprised that Apple is at a point where they're negotiating this badly that the president has to go out publicly and threaten them. You've seen other technology CEOs do a much better job of giving the president what he wants and moving forward and making those commitments. And I'm surprised that Apple is continuing to be humbled. Let's not forget, this has been a humbling week for Apple.
Yes.
At Google I/O, we've seen that Google is way ahead on AI on Android. Then there was the embarrassing announcement from OpenAI and Johnny Ive. Apple needs to do a better job of negotiating, because if it does commit to a long-term path, it could make iPhones in the US at a competitive price. It doesn't have to do it today.
How, Gil? At the moment, we're hearing that we don't have the skill set in the United States. We don't have the ecosystem of supply chain here. It has taken decades to build it up in China. It's taken years to build up in India. What do they have to go about sorting here in the United States in that 3 to 5 year time frame?
Yeah, that's exactly right. It is a skills issue. But if you give them 5 years, we can hire internationally. We can develop the skill here. Apple is sitting on $50 billion of cash, and it produces $100 billion of cash every year. That is enough to accomplish great things. And if the great thing Apple needs to accomplish right now is to develop that skill set domestically, then it should be focusing its resources on that.
But Gil, jumping in there, the opportunity cost of diverting that cash away from R&D, boy, they have to catch up in terms of generative AI and integrating it there. But instead having to focus on production here in the United States, is that not an opportunity cost that does indeed drag down the price target, at least for the stock?
It is a headwind, and that's the headwind they're dealing with this year. That's why the stock is down so much, is that they've been caught in this crossfire, and they didn't need to. Again, all they needed to do is make some early commitments, start down a path, and then this path, either it leads them to a successful outcome, or they have a fallback of saying, okay, let's just absorb the 25% tariffs from India. That's why when people say it'll cost $3,500 to make an iPhone in the US, that's not a real thing. The only possibility here is that they're going to say, okay, even in a 5-year time frame, it's going to cost us so much to make an iPhone that we'll absorb the 25% tariff from India and absorb it through higher prices, slightly lower margin, and push it down to vendors. So this is really just a matter of them doing a better job negotiating, moving forward. But yes, absolutely, this is a drag on the stock. It has been this year. And until they find a path forward and get out of the headlines, it'll continue to weigh on the stock.
So, Gil, if you're saying it's not a real thing to estimate what an iPhone made in America would cost, are you anticipating that they do stomach a 25% tariff coming on, just continuing to import? Or are you anticipating that they do go about a 3 to 5 year investment plan in the US when, look, the term of President Trump isn't 5 years?
I think they need to proceed on both paths. Again, this year, they can't make iPhones in the US, not this year, not in the next 3 years. So they are going to have to try to negotiate that tariff down or absorb it in the short term, which is what they're doing, and then proceed on both paths. Because to your point, this administration isn't going to be in power forever, and they're going to have to find out over time what it is going to cost. I think that we're also I think that I've heard some comments minimizing the changes to manufacturing in the U.S. Manufacturing is going to change dramatically over the next few years in the U.S. for a variety of reasons. Because labor has become more expensive in China and Taiwan, because robotics are getting that much better. So in a 5-year time frame, they may be able to accomplish these goals. They have to pursue that now. They don't have a choice. But at the same time, they need to use that as leverage to go back to the administration and say, hey, give us 5 years to do this. Let's take off that 25% on India because we are making a firm commitment to the 5-year time frame, and that'll buy them the time to find a good resolution. That is possible, and Mr. Cook is a skillful enough negotiator that he needs to be able to accomplish that.
But how frustrating do you think it is for investors, for yourself, for indeed Tim Cook, to just think about the inefficiencies that have to be built into the business model now? Even if they do bring over component building here in the US, it's not going to be an easy task, and they're likely to have to still assemble in China and India for the time being.
Well, it's a reality. I think sometimes other countries and some CEOs are a little bit in denial over the fact that President Trump got 77 million votes and believes he has a mandate to make these very profound changes to the global order, including changing the way the global supply chain works. This is not going to change in the next 3 years. This is something that all these companies, and by the way, these countries, have to acknowledge and move forward with. And we, as analysts and investors, have to adapt to it. We can't go back in time and change the outcome of the US elections. This is the administration, this is its policy, and we have to adapt as investors, which means that Apple is going to have a choppy year, for sure, and other companies that try to negotiate badly are going to have choppy years.
Right.
That's why we favor companies that have handled this better. Microsoft, Amazon have handled this a lot better. Their business is more resilient to this, and they should be better able to get through the rest of this year and the rest of this administration.